Good evening, plotters, and welcome to all of our specially invited guests who saw value in joining with us to commemorate International Women's Day 2022. This year, we're celebrating under the theme, Break the Bias. In alignment with our theme, we have a powerful lineup of speakers who will be sharing with you their stories and speaking their truth about how they broke the biases in their respective fields to become captains of industry, entrepreneurs, fearless leaders, trailblazers, and change makers. I am Marcia Hope, and I will be taking you through today's program. At this juncture, I will invite Minister Wendy Lewis to do the invocation. Minister Lewis.
Pleasant good afternoon to each and every one. Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this afternoon. We thank you for this platform, powerful ladies of Trinidad and Tobago. Father, dear God, as we gather to commemorate International Women's Day 2022, we pray, oh God, that you will continue to be our guide. We thank you, dear God, that we are all still in the land of the living. We know that challenges may come, but we believe in our God and the divine source which governs us. We pray that throughout this event, everything will be done in decency and in order. We thank you for the camaraderie. We thank you, dear God, for everything that everyone is about to not just bring to the membership, but to the event this afternoon. We thank you for your continued guidance, protection, as we go forth to fulfill our vision and our mission. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Minister Lewis. I now invite our Chief Plotter, Tracy Farag, to deliver welcome remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is such a pleasure for me to welcome you here today. In particular, our distinguished speakers who have generously given of their time to be with us and to share their stories. Also, our sisters in PLOTT, other women who joined us here today, and the members of our executive through whose efforts we were able to put this event together. Today marks the first event under the current board. And I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you officially to our most recent board members, Charu Lochandas, Crystal Harford, and Stacey Rupnaran. Unfortunately, Stacey is traveling, and I believe she might be joining us today, but she's not here physically. Fellow board members, our fellow board member, Marcia Hope, who is also MC for today's proceedings, and was the initiator of this idea for today's event, and the chief planner. We're so grateful. With such powerful women on board, it seems fitting that our first event would be the commemoration of International Women's Day. This year's theme is Break the Bias, as Marcia has shared, and our speakers' lives deeply reflect this. We know as women that the barriers to gender parity are often demonstrated through the external challenges we face, but in truth, the internal challenges can be no less formidable, where we have to fight the limiting voices in our own heads that have programmed us to believe that we are not able and we are not enough, simply by virtue of our gender. But we continue to prove that we can be fearless, some of us as mothers, others as professionals and entrepreneurs, and yet others who put themselves in harm's way in service to country. Today we celebrate them and women like them around the world and learn from their stories. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hand you over to Marcia again, who will introduce our first presenter.
Thank you very much, Tracy, for those kind and inspiring words. Just to let you know, this event will be interactive. You will be allowed to engage with our presenters verbally and via the chat feature. For persons wishing to interact verbally with our presenters, please use the raise hand feature so you can be unmuted by our producer. You will also have the opportunity to participate in our snap survey of no more than 3 questions. And don't forget to grab a glass of your favorite beverage for our toast. Moving into our program, we have a video presentation by one of PLOTT's co-founders, Ms. Catherine Kumar. But before you view this video, let me tell you a little bit about Catherine Kumar. Catherine is a high achiever. She's held several senior leadership positions throughout her career, such as President and Country Head of RBTT and Inspector of Financial Institutions at the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. She also served as the first female president of the American Chamber of Commerce of Trinidad and Tobago and the Bankers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. She also chaired the Caribbean Group of Banking Supervisors. She has also served the country as a director on several state boards and as a representative on other national committees. In 2009, she was inducted into the Hall of Excellence at her alma mater St. Joseph's Convent, Port of Spain. In 2014, she was awarded an honorary doctorate of laws from the University of the West Indies. In 2015, she received a national award in the category of business for her development of this network. In 2016, she retired from her role as Chief Executive Officer and Secretary to the Board at the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Catherine continues to contribute to the development of business in Trinidad and Tobago and sits on the boards of the JMMB companies in Trinidad and Tobago. She also continues to inspire and mentor women who are climbing the corporate ladder or building businesses of their own. Catherine holds a Bachelor of Science in Management Study and is a Fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. Producer, video please.
Chief Plotter Tracy Farag, other fellow presenters, fellow plotters, all women whom I'm so proud to be associated with and who are breaking the bias in their own way, other attendees, good evening. I am indeed joyful that I can share a few remarks with you all as co-founder of the Powerful Ladies of Trinidad and Tobago, as we celebrate with women throughout the world on this International Women's Day. International Women's Day is a worldwide event that celebrates women's achievements from the political to the social, while calling for gender equality. On this day, women across the world come together to force the world to recognize the inequalities in gender and to challenge the injustices of women, while also celebrating the achievements of women who have overcome these barriers. So, we celebrate our plotters today who are in fact on their way to overcoming the barriers to gender equality. The theme for this year's International Day is Break the Bias. There's so much we have to say on that, and it is so profound that this very bias, which we, the founders of PLOTT, personally experienced, was very much at the forefront when we formed PLOTT. We must break this bias and continue to lobby for equal rights and equal opportunities for all, but in particular for women who have been overlooked and bypassed just because they were female. The world will not see true progress until women are allowed to stand side by side with their male counterparts. PLOTT was formed on the 25th of November 2011. It is a network of female leaders who operate locally, regionally, and internationally, providing networking opportunities and support for fellow female leaders. PLOTT also undertakes social development initiatives with an emphasis on female issues as we contribute to the development of Trinidad and Tobago. Our values are engage, inform, educate, inspire, and empower. Living our values every day is our motto. Today, I will focus a little on how we as women continue to uphold these biases and what we can do, in fact, to help break them. This is the kind of support that PLOTT provides. Today, both men and women are recognizing the power that lies within we women. And yes, I refer to women only now recognizing this as being so bypassed previously. At times, we are our worst enemies. We walk around with a low self-esteem, thereby giving the men fertile ground to plant and grow their perception that we are just an emotional bunch, good for following instructions and executing, but not ready for leadership. But the world is waking up, and we have to ensure that we are not sidelined and that we are given an equal chance as any other man to lead and achieve our goals and serve the world. We have as much a part to play in breaking the gender bias as the men have. We must challenge them. It is a very uphill obstacle race, but we have faced this and we will continue to face this for a while to come. We must develop strategies and support each other. International Women's Day started in the year 1913, and to this date, we still have some of those same challenges that we are dealing with. I would use some of my time to share some of the biases I experienced early in my career and which could have set me back, but my determination to succeed was so strong that I managed to work around them. This one I'm sure many of you will be able to relate to. You are in a meeting room and you are the lone female member around the table. There's no assigned secretary. The meeting begins and the chair turns to you and says, "Catherine, would you mind taking some notes for us?" And then within my mind, I ask myself, what? Is it that he thinks that I can listen better than the men? Or that I can write faster than the men? I think not. I think it's because he thinks that I cannot make the same contribution as the men can, and therefore I'm relegated to being the secretary of the meeting, and even at times doing the coffee run. Sisters, don't allow this to happen a second time. You accept the role as you don't want to embarrass the chair, but you let him know privately afterwards that perhaps this role is better shared equally by all members of the meeting, as you want to be able to speak and contribute, and having to take notes takes away from that. It certainly worked for me. Then comes the sexist comments. As a young professional, you eventually develop the courage to go to networking events. Men don't understand the inner fight we put up with to just go to an event by ourselves. We enter the room and just peer through to find other females. But our coach told us, try and mingle and not just stay with the females. So we put on our brave face and join a group of men, some of whom we are familiar with. Then comes the comments. "I'm sure your husband did not see you leave the house this morning. You look too good. Someone may steal you away," etc., etc. Now, why those comments? Do they say the same to the guys in the reverse? No, they don't. So why am I different? So how did I deal with those comments? Simply ignore totally, giving no recognition to what was said, and simply moving on to a topic on the economy or what is relevant to the networking event. You see, I came prepared. Men soon understood that I am no runover and began to have respect for me. Yes, there are times in your journey when the track will be perilous, but you have to stand your ground and use those difficult times to make you even stronger and more determined to succeed. Let us all work towards breaking the gender bias. I will leave you with 3 simple success principles that I followed on my journey. First, and very important, believe in yourself and do not be afraid to make mistakes. Without mistakes, how will we learn? Secondly, get out of your comfort zone. Explore new ideas, places, and people. Go out and network. Yes, it's hard initially, but you will develop the art. And thirdly, think the unthinkable. Do not limit yourself or let anyone, not even your boss, limit you. Thanks for allowing me this opportunity to share a few messages with you, and I wish every woman in this session a fantastic International Women's Day.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for those words. Thank you very much. Up next, our next presenter is Assistant Divisional Fire Officer Carol Gaston. On December 1st, 1992, at the tender age of 22, Officer Gaston was among 30 women who made a decision to serve their country by way of entering the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, breaking the 41-year-old gender bias of it being a male-only entity. 29 years later, Officer Gaston has risen to the rank of Acting Assistant Divisional Fire Officer and is in charge of the engineering section in the Central Division. When not donned in her fire service uniform, Officer Gaston is a fashionista, exuding elegance. She's also a closet politician who possesses a master's degree in government. If you want to hear Officer Gaston on the floor, start a conversation on geopolitics, globalization, and women's rights. Her greatest accomplishment, however, are her two children, who she raised as a single parent, and who are now professionals in their own right, contributing to society both in Trinidad and Tobago and abroad. She's also a proud and doting grandmother of a 2-year-old grandson. Let us welcome Assistant Divisional Fire Officer Carol Gaston.
Good evening, all, and thank you for that warm welcome. It is indeed a pleasure to be in such great company this evening. As introduced, I am Carol Gaston, Assistant Divisional Fire Officer. Today you see me sitting here. You see all these lovely rank markings on my shoulder. This is 29 years later. But how it began in 1992, December 1st, when 20 women were brought in to this male-dominated environment through induction training. It was one of the most difficult things I have experienced in my life. You know, the training officers themselves, having been part of a male-only environment, had to take these 30 women along with our male counterparts, because the batch did include men, and break us from civilian life into a paramilitary, disciplined, able to fight a fire at any given time. Training was difficult, and it was difficult because our officers, having not had that great amount of experience dealing, or no experience, I should say, dealing with women, now had to try to adapt. They received limited training from the administrative end, and they brought in 4 policewomen to help assist in being our chaperones. Throughout the training, they emphasized equal work, equal pay, and that also equal punishment for the ladies, just as the men were punished if we went against, their commands or instructions, I should say. We were well trained, and it was not a bad experience in training. However, we were under that cover, that protection. We lived in Shagawamas, the men, and the women stayed in Maraval. But we came together to train, and we were kept apart from the normal stream of operation while they drilled in us the professionalism of becoming a fire officer and training us to respond to emergency events. 7 months later, we were sent out into the world of work. We went to stations throughout Trinidad and Tobago. I myself went to headquarters on Rice Road at Port of Spain. And we were all placed on different shifts. And I remember being placed on a particular shift. And day in, day out, I would watch myself and the 3 other women who were placed on that watch, being either placed as the sentry, where you're a type of security, taking information as people enter the compound, or you were placed in the control room, where you were sitting, recording information as they happen. And this went on for some time. And we observed, but I had a bit of a bold personality. So eventually, I went to the officer, the duty officer, and I said to him, why aren't we being allowed to ride the appliance like even the men who are trained with us? And he told us, I was known then as Carol Boxell. He said, Boxell, you really feel like it puts you on the appliance? When fire blazing so, you running so? And I got mad as I was disappointed, because I think we sweat blood and tears during that 7 months of training. And to come now into the professional arm of work and be denied the opportunity to show our worth, I wasn't prepared to take that lying down, as they say. So I complained against him. I went to the officer in charge and told him what was told to me. And he was a forward-thinking gentleman, and he insisted that we be placed on the firing line, no pun intended. And we were, but one by one. It was not that we were all getting the experience required, but that all changed. And we later learned that in the fire service, there was a culture that you had to earn your spot on what is called the first run. And I want to say thanks to firefighter, who was a senior firefighter at that time, Stanislaus, who organized the drill between an all-ladies crew, myself included, firefighter Diane Scott, Carlotta Box, and Camille Yates, now deceased. But he organized a drill and had an all-female crew go up against a male crew. And at the end of the day, we whipped, to put it mildly, those guys' butts. And there was no chance, no other choice, I should say, but for us to be allowed to be placed on the appliances and to show that we are here, we are present, and we are ready to perform. The women also, if I'm to move forward beyond training and that initial response, we walked into a culture where the men were laid back and waiting their turn where promotion is concerned. But you know, that's not a woman's speed. We make things happen, right? And women immediately upon arrival into the fire service, as soon as examinations became available, we passed out in 1993, and the next available exam came up in 1995, and we sat the theory, and 90% of us passed. In 1998, the second part came up, which was now a practical exam. And once again, we lined up like horses, ready to take charge. And lo and behold, we had men with 20 years service who were now doing this exam in 1998 after being laid back for so many years. And it's because, and I want to say it in a positive manner, we inspired human resource development, that they were now motivated to do exam, though it was because they didn't want no woman to be in charge of them. So we inspired human resource development by pushing them in the direction of pursuing promotional exam, because we were not just prepared to sit back and not aspire for higher office. We continue through and we work with the service during that time. You know, there were a lot of symposiums and so on that sort of educate the men to work together with the women and that we are here to stay. So there was a sexual harassment policy. There was change team in which we would discuss women in the service. In other forums, there was a general sensitization. The first promotion of women happened in 2008, where 10 women were promoted to that first office. And like the theme song, ain't no stopping us now. We continue to grow from strength to strength to strength. Today, I sit as Assistant Divisional Fire Officer Engineering. But before that, in 2018, they sent me to a station. Ironically, for all the attempts we made at diversifying all the stations throughout Trinidad and Tobago, San Juan Fire Station remains the only station in Northern Division without accommodation for women. And to be honest, I will admit it is a small station. There isn't much room to say that, we could expand the station. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we are still heavy on having separate welfare facilities for men and women. So San Juan never had women working at the station. And here I am being sent to San Juan Station, not just as an officer, but as the highest ranking officer in this station. And I had some trepidation. And I remember speaking to my son and telling him, boy, and explaining San Juan Fire Station and how apprehensive I was. And he told me, come on, mommy, just use your feminine wiles. And I said to him, Micah, feminine wiles refers to, trickery and deceit. And that is not the hair that I was going to project. So instead, I decided to use my feminine wise. And we as women, let's face it, we are wise, and I use my job experience and my job knowledge combined with my management ability, my emotional intelligence, my, for empathy and so on. And, when women come to do, they come to do, and we could do miracles. And I went to that little station with so many problems. And I showed the men, hey, I care. I am one of you, and I care. And whatever I can, the country has whatever going on financially. But I showed them that I was one of them, and it wasn't them and me, it was we. And I will fight the good fight for we to have a station that is habitable and comfortable for all. And I must say, while I was there, I'm a bit of a rogue, forgive me. One of the things I done was to create an award funded by me. I went on Amazon and I saw where I could get a trophy, and I customized that trophy. And by then I already had the men on my side because they see I was one of them and ready to work for them. And I initiated a program called the Firefighter of the Year San Juan Fire Station. And today it remains, well, I'm not there anymore, but it's the only station to give out a name of Firefighter of the Year. And the association now took it upon themselves to have an award, and they modeled it after my award called the Unsung Hero. And during my tenure at San Juan, I was able to name 3 firefighters of the year and present that award to them. Most recently, and this is not a boast, but I think we should all celebrate our successes. I drove by San Juan Fire Station and I had a firefighter in company with me. I was given a lift too. And as we drove by, he looked at San Juan Fire Station and he said to me, the fire station that Carol Gaston built. And there was a pride that, took over me because, so at least for now, they're secure on the premises. They have more parking on the premises. The simple thing as toilet and bath are improved. And they had leadership when Carol was at San Juan, but all good things come to an end. The officers probably saw my good work, hence why I'm wearing acting higher rank on my shoulders, But throughout, I would tell you, my sisters, I may be here, but behind you, you would see my 30 sisters, the 29 other pioneers who through it all show that women are here to stay, and we paved a way and showed that we have purpose, and that when we set our minds to something that we are all about achieving, and we have shaped the fire service in such a way that people think fire service is just fire service. Probably 1 in 5 fire officer is the holder of probably a master's degree or bachelor's for the least. And if I could say it's the woman who led that way by pursuing higher education, it's probably one of the most intelligent of the services that you would find in, persons in one space. And we take, we take responsibility for that, As I wind up, I want to say, and I want to say this with a measure of verve and satisfaction with my life. 29 years ago, I was a young mother, a young wife, and I wanted a walk. And I use the term walk colloquially. Today, 29 years later, I am proud to be a career fire officer who serves her country, and I serve my country. And I can think of no other way that I would live this life serving my country than by way of the fire service. We're not a perfect organization, but we're getting there. As we continue more and more studies, women of 29 years ago, as young as they were, they're at a different stage in their life, and the service has moved with us and studies into things like menopause and how it impacts and so on. So I am proud of my service, and I stand proud to be fire service. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention, and to all my pioneers out there. I may be here, but you are all here with me. We did it. Thank you.
Congratulations, and thank you very much, Assistant Divisional Fire Officer Carol Gaston. Okay, we said that this is an interactive session, so if we have anyone in the audience, you want to ask a question, feel free. The floor is now open for you to ask Officer Gaston any possible questions.
I don't want to ask a question. I just want to say how thoroughly inspired I am by her story, and that she has not only paved the way for herself and other women, but she actually made the lives of the men who were there better, and she made them aspire to greater things for themselves. I mean, even if it was so that they wouldn't be ruled by women, but still a remarkable job. We're so blessed to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Comments?
Yes, I'm seeing in the chat someone asked, when will we have a female chief fire officer?
Good question.
We have broken the glass wall that stood before us, but we are yet to break that glass ceiling. It is hope that, who knows, maybe myself and some other worthy women, we were interviewed last year for entry into the 1st division. That is where I would be a confirmed assistant divisional, or whomever would become a confirmed assistant divisional officer. That rank, you become part of the divisional administration, somewhat, or the division, part of the divisional head. There's the assistant divisional officer, the divisional officer, and the assistant chief fire officer. So you're now part of the divisional executive. We hope maybe not chief fire officer yet, but we're aiming for a confirmed assistant divisional fire officer.
Best wishes to you, Officer Gaston. Thank you very much. All right, up next we have Natalie Maharaj. Natalie's primary role is being a mother of a 13-year-old boy. Professionally, she is currently team lead of internal IT at iGovTT. She holds a bachelor's in computing with first-class honors, a postgraduate diploma in business with distinction, and is currently pursuing her master's in operational cybersecurity. Natalie has worked in various sectors, including insurance, aviation, energy, manufacturing, and now state. She has 24 years of work experience in IT and more than a decade as an IT manager. Natalie considers herself as a mentor as she assists parents with parenting tips to cope in this digital age. This is done through her Facebook page, where she offers technology tips and share information on digital citizenship. Natalie loves to swim. She loves to visit Tobago and relax in her spare time. Let us welcome Natalie. Natalie, welcome.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for making me a part of this amazing meeting. I'm so happy to see we have a lot of people tuning in. It's really nice. So I think Marcia said as much as she could about me. I would like to share my experience with you in my journey along my career. And IT is an area where we expect, there's this image we have of IT folks where they're kind of in a dark corner and slump behind the computer and they don't talk to anybody and they don't interact with anybody and they're writing code and that is the image that we get when we think about the IT person. They're not very interactive or social or anything like that. And most of the time when you think about, well, the big thing these days is cybersecurity. They always use an image of a guy. It's always a guy. It's never a woman, right? So it is a field where there tends to be a lot of expectation that the men are going to be dominating that field. What I can tell you with my experience over the last couple of decades, and so more and more women are applying for the IT jobs. I mean, just recently, the last couple of years, I've had to recruit some staff, and I can tell you that most of the applicants are now women. So this is great. This is great for us. We have the ability. We're just as smart as they are, maybe smarter. So there's no reason why a woman, a girl, can't be groomed into a role in whether it's IT or engineering or any kind of science area. I want to take you back to some of the challenges I may have had while I was pursuing this career. And initially, it wasn't a career that I knew that I was going to do from a very young person. I kind of stumbled into it. I came straight from A-levels into working in the airline industry, actually. And I was the bright girl in class. So I remember meeting one of my friends a couple of years later, and he had gone to university and he was doing well. And he said, well, what about you? And he reminded me of a time when they were copying my notes in class and the teacher found out that they were copying from me. And there I was, everybody went to university doing their own thing, but I didn't have the means to do that. I had to support myself through my education. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to find something that I could do and I'm just going to do it. And at that time, what was available to me was a computing degree. Actually, it was an associate degree at what used to be Nehus, is now COSTAT. So I had to work, I had to not eat to save money, and I had to pay for my studies. And that has been my journey throughout, working and studying. And it is very challenging and it's easy to want to give up. But for anybody who is trying to improve themselves in any area, don't give up. You are definitely worth it. Just don't give up. So I remember this one particular, very, very early on, working as a secretary, still doing my studies. And I was in an IT company, and I asked one of the managers, if I could just sit down inside a project or just get involved in something just to see what they do and how they do it and just to get familiar. And he was male, and he made it very clear to me that there was no space for me, that they couldn't allow me to sit in the meetings, and that wasn't for me, right? And I mean, it was very disappointing to hear him to say that to me, and to know that here I am just trying to learn more, it's all about learning. And he basically shut the door in my face and said, no, we don't want you in our meetings and so on. It's not for you. And I have recently, in the last month, had to sit in meetings with that same individual as a customer. He's now, trying to get services to us and work with us. And I didn't say anything to him. I didn't rub it in his face, but I said, oh, I remember you. And he's like, I don't remember you at all. So to see where I had taken myself 25 years later, I think it surprised him a lot. It surprised him a lot. So ladies, don't let those doors that might slam in your face, don't let them stop you. Open other doors, just keep going, keep the persistence, keep that mindset that you can do it, and you will do it. The journey could take a long time. It could be, and then don't try and time yourself against other people either. Don't measure yourself against other people. This is your journey, it's yours, and it will bring its own special challenges along the way. During my stint at what used to be BWIA back in the day, I remember applying for the manager's position for application support. And I had been with the company for more than 5 years, and I had everything. I had all this stuff on paper. I was the perfect candidate. I had the experience, and I had the interview, and I was told that I was too nice. I didn't have that, that the guys would just eat me up, and I was just too nice to be, to manage the team and to sit in the meetings. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why is that a bad thing? Do you have to be a terrible individual to manage a group of people? I mean, so this was something that, again, it's another stop, another block, we don't want you, you're too nice. But I mean, I think in general, women, we're known as the fairer sex, so we may come across nicer. But I also believe we can be assertive when the need calls for it, when the time calls for it. We can exert a certain amount of power if we have to do things and get things moving. So, again, along the way, there were these things that just really bug me. And one thing I really want to share with you as well, as women as well, we have our family life, and this thing called balance that we all trying to find the secret recipe for. Somewhere along my journey, one of the companies, they were restructuring and they were offering packages and so on. And along that time, my son was quite young. He was 2 years old. And plus I wanted to do the business studies. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a break. And I was just being mommy, but that was after managing IT in an international company for about 5 years. I took this break and I played mommy. I was PTA mom, doing all the cake baking and the PTA events and planning events, sewing costumes, and I was just mommy. I did my studies. I volunteered as well to make sure that the knowledge, whatever I was doing, I was keeping myself up to date. And then a couple of years later, when he was ready to enter primary school, I said, all right, fine, I'm ready. Time for me to get back into it. And ladies, let me tell you, the number of recruiters that said to me, well, you haven't been around for a while, so maybe you should not be looking for management positions. And I'm wondering, why did I just become, did I lose everything that I knew because I was playing mom or being mom for that matter? Why did that make such a difference, having this gap in your career? And it hurts us because a lot of us want to be with our kids, especially when they're young, but we also have to work. And what I learned was making that decision, it hurt my career. And we should not be punished for wanting to do something that comes so naturally to us. Why punish me for choosing to raise my child? So that really struck me. And I was like, no, I'm going to keep on applying for what I know I can do and where I know I am at. I remember having a particular interview where the recruiter, the person who was interviewing me, was very concerned that I had this young child and would I be able to cope with the workload. Men have young children too, and somehow nobody asks them these, or maybe I'm wrong, but are they asked the same questions in interviews? Can you cope with your workload because you have young kids at home? So there's a lot of bias, I think, still in how women are viewed, particularly for roles that may require more responsibility, maybe longer hours. And we really have to stop that. Like, we have to recognize that whether you're mom or dad, or you're playing the role of both, if you come to a scenario where you're a professional and you have a track record, then that's what we're looking at. You know, we want to see what your performance has been, what you could do, what you could bring to us. It shouldn't be, well, what is the home life going to be like? And is it going to get into the way of the work life? And I think that's an area where maybe it's entrenched in our culture, but I think it also happens in other countries where we have to stop thinking, well, she just had a baby, she gonna be up all night, and you know, we shouldn't be punished for that. It is a part of everybody's life. We all want families, and we all want to have the kids, and we want to raise our kids as well as we can and provide for them. And that shouldn't be a factor when trying to pursue a career and climb that ladder. You know, so there has been a lot of little things along the way that has indicated to me that my gender in this role, in this industry, people look at you a little bit differently. You know, and then there was a case where I decided to go into some more studies, and all of a sudden, you know, no problems with anyone, nothing. And all of a sudden it was, people knew I was studying, and well, why can't you attend this meeting? Or why can't I call you on this day? Or, you know what, I have classes on a Saturday and that's my priority on a Saturday. Well, we need you to come to the office still and do this. And it almost feels as if they're making it even more difficult for you. And I say to those people, you know what, you're not going to stop me. If I have to do it, I'm going to do it, and I will find a way to do it. And along the way, especially with people who study part-time, it is very demanding. You have everything else going on and you still have to make this time to study. And these little hiccups could really have, you really think, well, should I really give this up because it's too much? Don't give it up. You are totally worth all the effort and all the sacrifice, because when you do these things, when you add skills and you add knowledge, it's yours, it belongs to you. You could walk into a job and use them, but when you walk away, whatever you learn, whatever you experience, you gain, it belongs to you, and no one can take that away from you. So don't give up on your journeys, ladies. Don't let these little things, these little doors in your face, don't let them slam, you know, and if they do slam, there's going to be another door somewhere else. You just have to keep looking, right? And I'm hoping that that people who are looking on, they don't get daunted by the idea of IT. It seems so difficult and complicated, but we are very smart. We are very, very intelligent beings, and you can learn anything. You know, anybody who's really interested and they want to learn, they will learn. So it's not a field where you have to be a brilliant person. I remember doing some seminars with some students, and they were asking about if you have to do maths and you have to do this. And, you know, don't let those things daunt you, especially for if you have daughters and you want them to get into this field. I mean, how I explain to younger people, especially girls, is like you being Wonder Woman with a keyboard. You know, you get to do a whole bunch of stuff. You can make a difference in people's lives, all from a keyboard. You know, don't make it sound like you have to go in a dark corner and just be like a hacker in the dark. But that's the impression that we get. But there's so many different things that IT people could do. You know, there's a whole bunch of different various areas that you could specialize in, and none of these have anything to do with your gender. We could do anything. I tell my friends we were talking about this event, and they were all so proud that I got invited, and I'm like, you know, we have to spread the message, and we women, we're taking over the world, right? And we are taking over the world step by step, and the barriers that exist are going to come down. We will probably have to be the ones to take them down, but I don't think in the near future, I don't think those barriers will really be so great anymore, and we will be able to overcome them. Right. So folks, I really hope that I helped some of you all out there. If anybody has any questions or anything, please feel free to ask me anything. I'll try to share as much as I can.
Oh, yes, powerful story. The floor is now open to questions. Feel free. Natalie, tell us about some of the specializations in IT.
Okay, so you can, IT is like, there's different areas. There's three main groups, I would say. The work that you do with the actual computer, the physical stuff, the computers, the printers, the network, those things that you can touch and feel, what we refer to as infrastructure. So you can specialize in this area. You could go into a company, you can recommend how to design the network for them, how to secure the network, right? So that's a whole area by itself, security. And then there's the actual applications or the solutions that you will use to run your business. So for example, you might have a HR department and you want a system to manage the human resources that you have in the company. So people who manage those systems, we refer to them as business analysts or systems analysts. And one of the things I'd like to say, I pursued these studies in business first because I recognized for me to recommend solutions to anybody's business, I need to know about business. I need to understand what business is about so I can recommend solutions that suit that business. So that's another thing you could do. You could study business and then go into IT. You know, actually that might be a nicer slant as well. So there's people who can specialize in security. You can do media. Media is a big thing now, social media. You can design programs to automation for videos, and people who are more artistically inclined, they tend to go into the graphics. You can even get into gaming design because nowadays the younger folks are really into gaming, and a lot of them they want to design games when they get older. That is an actual field that you can specialize in. And then of course we have my area, which I'm very interested in now, which is the security. And it is a big area. It's a huge concern for the whole world. And we're hearing about this war. We know about the war with Russia. And, the first thing that they did was they did cyber attacks. So it is now possible for you to have an entire war without having any army or having any missiles or anything. You could hack into somebody else's system and turn their ammunition on them. So it is a serious problem around the world. Cybersecurity is a $2 billion, it's like $1 billion business now. And we actually need more people to get into security and to do what we call white or ethical hacking. We need good hackers to circumvent the bad hackers. And there's a huge need for that. Anybody who's coming up now, it's an excellent area to get into. And again, it's like you're being a superhero, but behind the keyboard. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that people can specialize in. And then there are solutions specific to industry. So the airline industry, you may need a system to manage your flights. That's a system that is very, very specific to airlines. You can go into the medical industry and have systems specific to the medical industry. Maybe it's the management of the equipment, the radiography equipment, testing equipment. So there's a lot of different areas that you could look at when you're looking at IT. Right.
Thank you very much, Natalie. All right. Any more questions, comments, congratulatory message for Natalie?
How challenging? Yeah, I'm seeing a question here from Mr. Henry Hamlet on how challenging has the internet made it to keep up to date on IT developments. Well, the internet, what I would say is in the last couple of years, we were all thrust online because of COVID, so I think people who took the internet for granted, where they would just go and search for stuff, all of a sudden now we just have to live on it and use it. And it is a challenge for regular, I don't want to say for non-IT people, because now you have to use technology and you may not have been aware of it before. Social media in itself is like a beast on its own, because social media, we behave a particular way in person. And what we have observed is that the behaviors online could be really different. And this is where I try to, this area of digital citizenship, what we try to promote is good behaviors online. You know, everybody should still be respected. You should still use language that is appropriate. This is what we should be doing online. You do it in person, so it shouldn't be any different when you're online. And with our children now being born with devices in front of their face, they're practically born with this device in their face. Their childhood is so different from at least the childhood that I had. So they are in this thing from day one, and we now need to teach them, well, this is how you manage your time online. These are the things that you should be looking at. You know, don't post pictures of people without them knowing that they have their picture. And we as adults do it, and we're not even aware that we're doing things that we shouldn't do. So sometimes it's hard for us to exhibit the behaviors we want them to mirror. But it is an area for me that is huge, because I'm seeing even my own son, there's certain behaviors I prefer he didn't have online, but he's a teenager, he's experimenting, they're competing against each other, peer pressure. So it is a challenge for us as parents coming up now. We do have this area of digital parenting that we also have to take into consideration. How has being a woman helped you as a people manager in your field? I am a nurturer. That's one of my natural traits. And I work with a lot of trainees, and over the years, I've had a lot of trainees, and particularly now we do a lot of on-the-job trainees, OJTs. And I think that natural ability to nurture has made me a really good mentor. And I always get a lot of kudos from my trainees that they're always so grateful for the things that I pass on to them. And I think that being mommy, you have to have a lot of patience, you know, and I have a lot of patience with them, because yes, they're trainees, they're young, they're now starting to work, they make mistakes. You can't kill them because they made a mistake. You can't always be disciplining them from day one, or taking them to HR from day one. You know, you have to counsel them a lot. And I think as women, we're more inclined to nurture and be more empathetic, and to sit with people and speak with them about certain things and help them grow in certain areas. So I think that has helped me a lot. And that has also allowed me to, when I'm managing my staff, to understand where they are coming from, what their challenges may be, and we all could work together to help them with their challenges. You know, I'm really big on teamwork, and it's never a one-person effort. If we know we have someone who is more skilled in one area and we need to make room for that person to do what they need to do, we work as a team to make it happen.
All right. Thank you very much, Natalie. Natalie, you want to share your email, so for persons who are interested in getting some answers to some pertinent questions, they can send you email, and you can continue with your mentoring and coaching.
Okay, I see one question here that I would really like to tackle. I think this is a big one. You indicated that management found you fragile. What have you done to overcome that identity? And what advice do I have for you ladies? Ladies, we need to say what we know. Don't be afraid to shine. A lot of times you know more than the male person next to you, and you shouldn't be afraid to show that. I would say being extremely polite and being always, the word is grace. Be graceful all the time. Show that grace. Say what you have to say. If people are interrupting you, let them know, I would like to continue speaking. Can you please allow me to finish? You know, and that's something that tends to happen. They interrupt you before you can finish saying what you have to say. But learn assertiveness. Learn about what assertiveness is. It is not the same as aggression. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, we have the internet. There's a lot of stuff you could look up on us being assertive, being able to speak and speak the truth. you put yourself in a position where whatever you say, you can prove it. You can back it up with facts. So if someone tries to question you, they can question you as much as they want. You know you have done the truth and you can back up what you have said.
All right. Thank you very much, Natalie, for sharing your knowledge with us. All right. We're going to change things up a bit. We will now have a spoken word act performed by Zakia Gill. Let me tell you a little about Zakia. Zakia is a cultural ambassador and a multi-award recipient that is registered with the National Registry of Artists and Cultural Workers in the field of spoken word. Zakia's mission is to bring comfort to the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. Let's welcome Zakia.
Evening, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you guys. I am learning a lot. I am absorbing and taking in, and it's a pleasure to be surrounded by such powerful women. So I'm about to share a piece with you guys. It's called Corrective Surgery. Our eyes are very beautiful. Some say it's the windows to the soul. Others say it's through this oculus we use to scrutinize life. Life can often slice our femininity like a knife. What happens when our visual senses system gets distorted and becomes unreliable like every local mobile service? Let me get the plank out of your eyes with my verbs. As for centuries, we have been painfully scribed roles and responsibilities soon as we enter this life. And the ones that can correct the lens with their pens, illustrate diagrams of men, where men are often used to demonstrate strength. At school, there were drawings of men depicted as mechanics, doctors, pilots, and priests, and often placed in positions of power. And I was always colored in as weak. This made me weep when I wanted more out of life, but these textbooks often limit me to giving childbirth or on my knees planting flowers in the dirt. And yet this hurt because I thought to myself, I don't think this demonstration will work. This stimulation irks me. I am not a fan of these limitations. So with my words, may I break the bias, breaking the ideologies that only women can be janitors and caregivers. Society needs corrective surgery to leave these limitations, remove these lies until we realize that women in athletics should not only be respected, but paid equally. And I know, I understand we live in a world where classification is key, but it's okay for young ladies to be labeled miscellaneous. Pardon me for being a bit mischievous, but I want to be the surgeon. I want to give the world corrective lens. I want to be the one to describe with the pen. I want to sit in positions of power. I want to rip these pages off these textbooks, and I want to start my own curriculum that show images of women as pilots, doctors, commanding officers, and CEOs, as I couldn't imagine a world where a woman could be a president or even a prime minister or even have a voice in parliament. Because when I was young, I was told young girls are to be seen and not heard. But how much longer must I stifle myself just for you to feel good? I want to be the one holding the rifles and leading the fleets, where my assertiveness will not be classed as the B word, unless it's boss babe, that is determined to earn the same as my male counterpart, that I shouldn't be shamed for my femininity. By a show of hands, who can relate that if I should cut my hair and wear my pants and I don't reproduce at a certain age, then society will label me a lesbian. Let's be honest, we are living in a world where they can cure male baldness. But when it comes to gender blindness, no amount of corrective surgery would be need to improve our vision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zakia. Thank you very much for your app. All right, our next presenter is Mrs. Ingrid Jara. Mrs. Ingrid Jara is a co-founder of Cinema One and has been Cinema One's Chief Executive Officer and Director since its inception. She's been directly responsible for IMAX and Gemstone theater construction, the building of an IMAX theater operations team, negotiation of theater programming agreements with all major Hollywood studios, and the execution of various multi-year sponsorship agreements with large regional corporations. She has held senior positions in the Ansel McCall group of companies in the areas of public relations and new media development. Mrs. Jara is currently the chairperson of the Board of Film Censors of Trinidad and Tobago. Let us welcome Mrs. Jara.
Thank you, everyone. I had to step out of the room briefly because we have a live operation going, so I missed some of the really excellent presentations. So I hope that I'd be able to hear the recorded afterwards, Tracy. And thank you, everyone, for inviting me. My journey was a little different in the sense that, I came from a home that my mother actually was the head of the house. She held the job that was a career professional in government. She was the secretary to cabinet for 35 years of her life. And she really was my role model of what women could do. She was a very quietly competent person. And I really kind of didn't realize of any gender bias until after she retired, to realize she was one of very few female secretaries to cabinet. Actually, in her time, there were mainly men. I think that when I began to realize gender bias and be kind of confronted with it, I guess is when I met my husband and we started one of our first companies. The internet had come to Trinidad back in 1995 or 94, and we started one of the first web development companies. And kind of partnering with someone who doesn't really see barriers. And we kind of just went through our working life together with this common focus. And I really didn't see, if gender bias was being held against me in any way, to be honest, until we had rolled the company forward and we became minority shareholders under the Massey Group. And we were then 360 Communications. Now, when we came together as a husband and wife team. And then we came into big corporate Massey, and they said, well, we want your husband, but husbands and wives can't work together in corporate life. This is after we had been working together for probably 10 years, evolving as a company. So I was like kind of completely shocked. I was like, how do you mean that we cannot work together? When we sold the company, we came together as a team. Somebody was the head, somebody was the neck, and that interchanged, right? When it was needed. So what I did, I decided, listen, being entrepreneurial, I said, you know what, I'm gonna retool myself. At 41, I went and did my executive MBA at Arthur Lockjack. And I decided I need a job because I had left corporate life for like 10 years, having my own company. So I decided, look, I'm gonna go back and retool myself, and was fortunate that my practicum was the business that became the first IMAX in Trinidad. And in that journey, then I realized the minority that I was in terms of the gender bias. And it was, I was not an exhibitor. Before that life, I was a PR and marketing professional. And that's how I operated in my business. To now jump over to being a CEO of an IMAX movie theater and jump into exhibition was a quantum leap. I didn't realize it was a quantum leap because of my just personality. For the years before, we weren't even, IT, it was very interesting what Natalie Mirage was talking about in terms of IT. I mean, we knew nothing. My husband has a master's in agri-economics. I had a first degree in tourism management. And we decided, you know what, we need to, he wanted to stay in Trinidad. And we decided, okay, we're going to form a web development company. And we just found the resources, downloaded all the manuals and figured it out. So that's how I kind of approached entering into exhibition. But that was, so the first thing was the very difficult pill to swallow, that I could not work with my husband in the business that we had grown together. So I guess in listening to the stories, well, I only heard one really. I can understand about retooling yourself. A lot of times, being a woman, they don't expect you to know, they don't respect your subject matter expertise, right? So many times you have to dig, you have to get the A's. You whatever subject you are learning, you make sure you know as much about it as possible, so that when you come to the table and you ask questions, and you must ask questions, you must lean in, because again, what Natalie said, many times people talk over you, right? Because they don't expect you to really come with value, because they are accustomed to talking. Men are accustomed to talking and talking amongst themselves. So it became that kind of learning for me, because I was diving into construction. I have never built anything in my life. I bought my home already built. So in learning construction of an IMAX theater, which is a very specific geometry, and being really the only woman in construction in terms of the level where I was performing, it was a very hard and difficult time, right? But again, asking questions, tooling yourself, and also, I guess I was fortunate that the persons that were around the table were gentlemen. So they kind of respected and understood the, wanting to be part of something first was exciting to them. So they were able to kind of temper that gender bias towards me. And I guess being the person that's writing their check helps as well, because, they needed to get paid by the co-founders. So, I mean, if in terms of my journey, I would like to say that one part of it is really, if you're going to do it, if you're going to become a leader, you do really have to do the homework and tool yourself. And don't be afraid to ask questions, but hopefully they're based in something that is intelligent, so that when you speak, the respect is there for you, that you're not asking something that is totally not related to the subject matter at hand, right? So I would say I was kind of fortunate as well, because I had a partner who didn't hold me back. When I went to do my executive MBA, I had 3 kids. And that was really, really hard. And my kids to this day say, my God, you still live at Arthur Lockjaw, because I passed there nearly every day to get home. And they would say, that's where you were living, because it was 2 years of intense work. I would say that I got very good support, which was fortunate. But as well, you do feel regret, because you do realize that you missed a lot of the key milestones, because you're deeply developing a project or deeply retooling yourself. And you can feel sometimes regret, that you didn't get the work-life balance correct in a particular time in the business cycle. I do think as women, we need to forgive ourselves. I do also think as women, we need to have conversations and continue to have the conversations about our feelings with our loved ones, with our family, so that there's understanding, so that you don't feel the regret that, I missed that sports day. Well, you know what? That was one sports day, yes, but I'm still here. There's the rest of our lives together that we can continue to create memories. So I guess it's also part of your personality as well, because and we as women tend to hold ourselves back because we put ourselves in these images of ourselves. When I first started, I was a PR and marketing professional, and my husband was like, you need to get a job and you need to leave, corporate life and come and work on your own. And that seemed scary to me. But once you open your eyes and take a deep breath and realize, you know what, but you could do it. Whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. You just need to kind of center yourself and believe yourself. That is half, to me, the battle as women we face, because we're told we're just, we're supposed to be motherly. We're not supposed to be aggressive when we speak. We're not, we're classified into a particular way. And it's about letting yourself go and believing in yourself that you can do this thing and operate with your own voice is also part of the journey of being the best that you could be, right? And building the business was a struggle at each level, because not only is it about construction, where women are a minority. I was very pleasantly surprised to see, women project managers, women scaffolders, but they're in the minority. But it was great because I just felt that they were doing what is, operating in a man's world, right? Because construction mainly is about men. However, actually some of the better project managers are women. So for me, I guess I didn't realize there were biases until I hit this wall of being challenged, not being able to go forward with my husband in the new business, and kind of pivoting in a way. And also, I think it was just very fortunate that what I did, my business plan, came to fruition, right? That really was a confidence booster in myself. It's like, no matter how many times I come to work, I stand in the IMAX theater and I go, wow, I remember this being concrete with an open hole where the glazing is. And this was built from nothing, an idea. So I guess for me, what I wanted to leave with everyone is that, whatever you do, you need to come to the table with the knowledge. So tool yourself, educate yourself. And it doesn't have to be formal education. It can be practical. And you can do it on your own. It doesn't need to be classroom. Get the experts, have those conversations so that you become confident when you have to sit at the table with the other persons. That's one thing. As I said, I did benefit from having a strong female role model in my mother. And even though she's completely different in stature to me, what is wonderful is that I know that whoever I meet in life after that she has retired always says very good things about my mother. And this is a woman that had 5 O-levels and became the head of the public service. So it just let me see, but whatever you put your mind to and you do it well, you'll get recognized. And you can soar in whatever you want to do. Again, having support is also key, but mentally being strong as well. and having that faith in yourself is also part of the journey, I believe. So I know mine is kind of short.
All right.
But I don't know if y'all had any questions that y'all would have liked to field to me. I guess part of the bias as well is that, you know, even in the exhibition, you know, I am one of eventually two women in the exhibition. You know, the bigger players are the men, you know, so it is not easy as well, but the respect is there because I guess by the doing and doing it and the proving that you can do it also augurs well for you.
All right. Moving along, we have our next presenter is Dr. Marissa Nimrod. Dr. Nimrod lives by this quote: "A great leader is one who is humble enough to follow." Dr. Nimrod completed her medical training with a national scholarship from the government of Trinidad and Tobago at St. George's University and completed her service in 2015. During that tenure, she was involved in a myriad of activities, from research and presentations to community outreach. She is currently completing her master's in global health. She has recently been appointed as president of the Trinidad and Tobago Medical Association, as well as the chief medical officer at the community hospital in Cookreet. Past appointments include occupational health, oncology, emergency medicine at West Shore Medical Private Hospital, pulmonary medicine at the Breathe Well and Live Long Clinic, and as a private practitioner at her company. She's also the CEO of the Caribbean Association for Oncology and Hematology and served as a health educator for the Ministry of Health and PAHO. Dr. Nimrod believes that you can accomplish anything that you put your mind to with divine guidance. In her spare time, she enjoys spending time with her family and admiring the beautiful displays of nature in the Caribbean. Let's welcome Dr. Nimrod.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for the very inspirational stories from my fellow colleagues before me. So it's a pleasure to actually give my perspective on the theme, Break the Bias. The journey to success is definitely no easy road, and is influenced by both positive and negative experience that mold us into stronger and all-rounded women that occupy all positions, from homemakers to corporate executives and even beyond. We developed the formula for success from our homes, since this serves as the nurture model, because in medicine we do nature, which we've inherited, and the gifts and your skill set from your mom or your dad, and then your environment is what's going to nurture you. And no better place than the home, which is why the home is one of the most foundational and elemental aspects, even in medicine, where we get most of our information from. We acquire initial skills from our home environment. So I can start with my first experience. I remember going to school one day. I think I was in upper sixth, ready to write A-levels. And a particular relative was dropping me off and made the comment, well, you know, if you don't do well, then you can always get married and take care of a home. And in my head, this light bulb came on and I'm like, hell no. No, I'm not getting married and cleaning for anyone, not now. And I think that was probably the first catalyst then, because in the traditional family and with huge families, women did all the cooking and men went to work. And I said, well, no, that's going to change. And that actually drove me to keep pursuing and grabbing and devouring every opportunity that came up for educational advancement or just knowledge and experience. So the barriers that exist are grounded in different types of biases. So there's the cultural bias, there might be religious ones. We know that there may be gender, definitely, which is what we're trying to break. And there are even those at the executive or corporate levels. In a profession, for example, like medicine, that is led predominantly by men, there still exists that perception by some persons that females belong to a particular medical specialty. For example, women were pretty much instructed to go into general practice because they know we'll have to have children and maintain a family, maybe do family medicine, internal medicine, or even dermatology. However, the mentorship that I received from even senior or accomplished women provided the tools to inspire me to attempt specialties considered previously to be part of a men's club only culture. And another example cited would be the development of the cancer guidelines. I remember reaching out to a particular consultant and I said, listen, I'm interested in doing cancer guidelines. And I was told, no, that's not important. That's not my focus right now. And I said to myself, I said, there's got to be a way. There must be a way. So I started going through my emails and I found the contact number for the lady who's in charge of PAHO. I sent an email to her. She doesn't know me from Eve. And she wrote back and gifted me a female mentor who was coming to Trinidad. She came, she stood by me, supported me. And today we developed the first ever Caribbean cancer guidelines for the region in 2018. So in essence, never quit, don't give up, and know that other women are there to support you and take you through your challenges. So this particular gender bias, both men and women contributed. And it's important to address both groups by inquiring about their knowledge, practice, attitudes, and beliefs. And if we are going to continue making steps towards this change that we seek, it means engaging both sides of the divide. So in my current position, my latest appointment as president of the Trans-Tobago Medical Association, I've encountered my challenges from a few male and even female colleagues as this transition process occurred from a male president to a female president this year. And I must commend and say that the advice and support that was given to me by my male colleagues in particular has been very phenomenal to support breaking this bias. To date, there are 5 female predecessors in terms of presidents in the association that I know. And we have 4 phenomenal female physicians who are actually chairing 4 of the 5 branches, which I pretty much preside over. And we're there to support each other. We do check-ins every week, call to make sure how you're going. I mean, the other one is a guy, so of course we're going to call him. But again, just knowing that somebody's there for you, even if you might have a bad day to touch base, is something that makes a difference. So caring is another part of the tools that we have to empower. So I believe recognizing and supporting women who face these challenges underpins this concept of being our sister's keeper. So I salute the men who were willing to be open-minded, embrace this evolving concept of allowing women to be team players, and we provide a balance and a different perspective to any situation that's encountered in life. So to break the bias, we need to possess critical thinking, right? Always be 2 steps ahead of the men or even the women who may challenge you. Intrinsic motivation, never give up, right? Embrace your family, both your work family and your home family. Maintain your composure. Your mental health is so important and it's very stressful. I've heard most of you speak to manage all those particular, faculties in life, from family to work to and everything in between. Make sure to take care of you and your mental health, because that's something, again, that I'm realizing is very important to me. Take time out and breathe. Be resilient, be creative, think out the box. There's no box, there's no ceiling, and be fearless. And I think that makes the difference. Teamwork is important. It helps to make our work light. And in medicine is team. No man's an island. So there's no I in medicine, apart from the word itself. But we need each other to move forward. So as I said, a strong leader is one who's willing to follow. So let's continue to create and blaze that trail for the development of new leaders who will continue the call to break the bias.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nimrod. You obviously did a powerful job. Thank you very much for your presentation and the inspiration. All right. So we're going to have a video presentation now. So we'll have Maria Mohammed Maharaj. Maria is a digital marketing and communication specialist and co-owner of a 24-year-old company. She currently serves as Executive Director of the Supermarket Association of Trinidad and Tobago and is a board member of the Greater Tunapuna Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Maria has been a Rotarian with the Rotary Club of St. Augustine for approximately 10 years, serving as president from 2018 to 2019, and currently serves at the district level as an assistant governor. Maria is a former board member of the Association of Female Executives of Trinidad and Tobago. Maria completed her postgraduate studies in mass communications with a concentration in new media and society from the University of Leicester. Let's see Maria's video.
Good evening, everyone. Apologies for not being there to address you live, as I had a conflicting event. But I would like to thank PLOTT for giving me this opportunity to share my story. I have to admit, telling my story is out of my comfort zone. In my field, I am used to communicating the stories of brands, individuals, or companies, and have been perfectly fine doing so all these years. I began my career in an advertising agency as a public relations assistant, working my way up about 4 years, and eventually went into my own business in marketing and communications. This was over 20 years ago. Getting into business was not something I had planned to do. At that time, running a PR department in an ad agency was a 7-day, 14-hour schedule, and I was doing this for a few years. But I remember playing Mass one year, was only able to do so on Carnival Tuesday as I was working on the Monday, but I came back to the office on Ash Wednesday and submitted my resignation. Had a few weeks holiday backed up and took it one time. It was a split decision, but I was exhausted. Don't get the wrong idea, I loved my job. It was a great experience, especially since the company was internationally affiliated with Young and Rubicam worldwide. I will always be grateful for that work experience, but said to myself, there has to be more. And I also remembered not second-guessing myself about my decision. Within the next few days, I started to get calls from some clients asking about what I was doing in the future, where I was going to work, and my response was, I'm just taking a few weeks off. And some of them asked me to work with them in their departments internally on projects. After a few weeks, one of my former co-workers, who also left the agency, contacted me as well to join on a project. And after working on other projects, we decided to register our business, Camo Designs and Productions Limited, located in Trin City. And that was close to 24 years ago. I'm grateful to all our current and former clients, such as First Citizens, UE, Parliament, Grenada Lotteries Commission, and many others. The schedule with the agency and Camo was the same the first few years, and it was during the 5th year that same feeling, there has to be more than this, came again. I felt the need to connect, network, so I joined different organizations and also afterwards served on their board. That is the Association of Female Executives of Trinidad and Tobago, or AFET, International Association of Business Communicators of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Greater Tunapuna Chamber of Industry and Commerce. Being part of these organizations continued for about 6+ years. And then in 1 year, 3 of my close family members, including my younger brother, passed away in a short time span of about 3 months. Not too long after, I made a decision to come off all these organizations. Maybe about 6 months after, a client recommended me for a project with his Rotary Club, that is the Rotary Club of St. Augustine, for their inaugural golf tournament. But I was approached and invited to become a member. I thought about it, thought about becoming a member of the club, and I didn't feel that regret. So I joined, and this was in July 2012. Within 6 years of at the club, I became the second female president during the 50th year of the club. And for me, the best part of my year serving as president was when our club chartered the first Early Act Club in Trinidad and Tobago, which is a service organization for kids 5 to 12 years. I'm currently serving in my second year as assistant governor for Rotary Clubs in East Trinidad. July 2019, I was approached by the current president of the Greater Tunapuna Chamber to come back on the board, and this was after an 8-year absence. In October 2020, I was approached to become the executive director at the Supermarket Association of Trinidad and Tobago. My experience at SAT has allowed me to apply all the facets of my experience in industry, from business development to communication, marketing to digital media and other, while at the same time complement CSR initiatives, which has become a passion to me being a Rotarian. While my story is one of continued development, there have been many obstacles, problems, and issues along the way. But for every problem, there is a solution. Focus only on what inspires you, what moves you forward. Only positive energy. I join in solidarity with all females in celebration of International Women's Day as we break the bias. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you very much, Maria. All right, I noticed that there are some questions in the chat for Dr. Nimrod that we missed by Miss Muriel Lazama. Miss Muriel, you would like to ask a question now, ma'am?
I was just saying, and it's not only for Dr. Nimrod, but in general, that in the workplace, when women are striving for excellence and to break the glass ceiling, there's pushback, but not only from male colleagues and counterparts, but also to a large extent from their own female sisters. And my question was, how, if the women here, Dr. Nimrod, etc., have experienced that, how is it dealt with?
Okay, so what I can tell you from my experience is that I actually endorse and I highlight the strengths of the same women who may have challenges or insecurities going forward. I think some of it is because they continue to perpetuate what they think should be that defined male-female role. And if it's been so ingrained in them, it's hard for them sometimes to give up. Change is hard to do always. So sometimes really focusing on the strengths that they have and trying to incorporate that into your team objectively is where we've started breaking down barriers for starters. And then, as we said, and somebody commented so aptly, emotional intelligence, caring. A lot of persons just really need love and they need to feel secure. And that does so much for them because they probably see you as a threat to some aspect of their, probably road to success. But if they know that it's definitely something that's going to be a team, even if you just find objectively that one character trait, at least in my experience, it's done a lot to try to move persons forward. It's not going to work for every last person, but that's where you actually become quite, tactful and try to assess them. And from the critical part of things, what would be the best way forward to help them see themselves and where they need to be as well.
All right, since it's the question not only for Dr. Nimrod, we'll take one response from one of our panelists or presenters.
If I could respond, if I could help with this question, I think in general, we find men tend to be more resilient to some extent, and they don't take the career hits, if you want to call it that, as personally as women do. We more feeling, we're more about feeling. But I think you need to gather a support system within your working environment as well. There are some women or even men also have been, big support for us that you could dig into and let them know, well, this is what is happening, and maybe they can assist in some way. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I don't believe there's anything wrong with asking for help. You don't ever have to do every single thing by yourself. Having some constructive conversations, maybe getting feedback from other persons could help in your side of your argument, if you would. And just letting that person know that maybe you're about the work, and the personal stuff is not gonna stop you. You know, if they want to get personal and they want to take things in a particular direction, you need to find ways to steer it back towards the work and the composure, being able to manage your composure. And I think someone said it earlier, that mental health is so important, not stressing about things. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you very much, Natalie. All right, well, we have our final presentation up next, and this is Chief Petty Officer Devin Lucien. Chief Petty Officer Lucien is a mother of 5 who has been employed in the Coast Guard for the past 23 years. One of her many firsts within the organization has been the first batch of females to join the Coast Guard, after which she became the first female to ever do the Special Naval Unit Assessment and passed. This allowed her to become the first and to date the only female to ever work within that unit. After spending approximately 5 months in that unit, she went on to train recruits. Some other accomplishments of Chief Petty Officer Lucien include her being one of the first female divers and interceptor coxswain. This duty entails search and rescue patrols. Chief Petty Officer Lucien is a qualified medic, driver, and drill instructor, which are specialized qualifications within the organization. She has also been the first female to manage 2 external Coast Guard bases, namely Galeota and Cedros. Currently, she's working in the regulating department at Stobbles Bay. This very dedicated and hardworking woman is currently pursuing her bachelor's degree in general nursing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our final presenter, Chief Petty Officer Lucien.
I'm a serving member of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard for over 23 years. I presently hold the rank of Chief Petty Officer. Prior to being enlisted into the Coast Guard, my life motto was always breaking the glass ceiling. As a child growing up in Sangre Grande, I always gravitated to playing football, cricket, and even scooch with the boys. I never had any interest in hopscotch, rounders, or dollies. I always contemplated what career path I wanted to follow, and after seeing the Coast Guard recruiting ad in the newspaper, I applied, and after a very long wait, I was successful. I was enlisted into the Coast Guard on the 11th of December 1998 as a member of the 38 intake at the age of 18. I, along with 23 other females, made history as the first ever females to be enlisted into the Coast Guard. I felt honored knowing I was part of history whilst breaking another glass ceiling in the process. Prior to joining the ranks of the Coast Guard, you must endure the rigors of recruit training, which in my view was a molding process that took me to another physical and mental threshold that I never dreamt of reaching. I was a prominent target by instructors because of my first name, Devin, which was misinterpreted as male. They used my name to justify workouts they bestowed upon me. My nightmare in recruit training was further compounded when I turned 19, and this was celebrated doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and other creative workouts fashioned by the instructors. Recruit training was the catalyst in evolving my maturity as I was on the verge of being immersed in a male-oriented environment that had no compromise where gender is concerned. Without a doubt, we were all warned of the potential culture shock associated with the introduction of females into the Coast Guard and were often told that we came to mash up the work. But with God at the focal point of my life, I was excited and ready for any challenge. On conclusion of recruit training and joining the ranks of the Coast Guard, I worked in various departments during my probationary period as an ordinary rate, where I excelled. I successfully completed the 6-month emergency care management course and on conclusion completed my internship in the medical inspection room at the Coast Guard headquarters, Stubbers Bay, to become a qualified medic in 2000. During the latter phase as an ordinary rate, I mouthed off to anyone who attempted to pamper me as a female or even tried to confine me to administrative duties. It was this disposition and fearless attitude that aroused the interest of the Special Naval Unit, commonly called the SNU for short. Another glass ceiling opportunity, I ran straight into the challenge of joining the SNU. Although my peers begged me not to because of the dangerous and highly hazardous training accompanied with the very intense operations after induction. I completed the training and broke another record of becoming the first female to join the SNU and complete the induction training. My appetite for the more physical aspect of the job continued as I successfully completed the diving course in 2001, was nominated as a drill instructor to train the 42nd intake in 2003 and the 43rd intake in 2004. I successfully completed the defensive driving course during my tenure as an instructor of the 43rd intake. Another milestone was presented to me when I was nominated for a junior non-commissioned officer cadre conducted by the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment, where I was the first ever enlisted female in the Coast Guard to embark and successfully complete an NCO cadre. To enhance my administrative skills, I was transferred to the pay office at Defense Force Headquarters for approximately 3 years, after which I was deployed on board TTS Nelson CG-20, where I performed the duties as a seaman, diver of the watch, ship's boat captain, and medic. Another rotation landed me in the squadron office, but that thirst for action conquered me, and I embarked upon the small boat coxswain training, where I was also successful. Another milestone in my career was attained as I was the first female coxswain to drive and command an interceptor with a crew responsible for conducting search and rescues, intercepting contacts of interest, and any other maritime function in the coastal waters of Trinidad and Tobago. As I ascended in the organization's hierarchy to a more administrative role, I was sent to Costa to enroll in the associated applied science degree in management studies for the protective services. Successfully completing my studies, I was now placed in an administrative capacity within the organization. Another record was broken when I became the first female Base Chief Petty Officer to manage both Galeota Base and Cedras Base, which are classed as outstations in the Coast Guard. I ascended through the rating structure of the Coast Guard as an ordinary rate, able rate, leading rate, petty officer, and at present, Chief Petty Officer. I am proud of my achievements through the ranks, as I was the first enlisted female to be advanced to Petty Officer and the second to be advanced to Chief Petty Officer. It took me a total of 15 years, 4 months, and 20 days to attain my present rank of Chief Petty Officer. I became a proud mother of 5 beautiful children, ages 17, 15, 13, 10, and 5 during my tenure in the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard. However, I never allowed my maternal phases to ever impede my pursuit of excellence and breaking new barriers. Motherhood is hectic in a job that demands your time, but God always shows me solutions to all my problems. My time management skills are more demanding as I am currently pursuing a Bachelor's of Science degree in general nursing on a part-time basis. Currently, I am attached to the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard Central Regulating Office. This department is the custodian of discipline throughout the organization, and my institutional knowledge is very much enhanced, which is preparing me for the next higher rating. It would be remiss of me to not give credit to the 3 senior females who were pioneers that were drafted from Army to train us. They are retired Fleet Chief Petty Officers S. Edwards, E. Cumberbatch, and C. Jack. To all the young ladies out there, my breaking glass ceiling experience may be gender-based, but this idiom can be applied to all dimensions of life. Don't allow society to determine our endeavors, but let us break the female limitation status quo that kept us in bondage for many years. No longer a pregnant woman plying her trade as a mechanic should be viewed as a taboo. Look around, we have women in all dimensions of leadership in our society. God does not see sex, so why allow another human to view your femininity as a limitation? My question to you ladies, what glass ceilings have you broken lately or will be breaking in the near future?
Thank you very much, Chief Petty Officer Lucienne. All right, the floor is open just for one question or comment or complimentary message to Officer Lucienne.
I don't need to hug the show, but this is Mirella Zamra again, and I need to say this. All the women here have been fantastic. They have been inspiring. Every young, mature, any person should hear this program. But for me, Petty Officer Lucien is my shiro, because as a female diver, one of the first in the country back in the early 80s, I feel her in terms of what she has accomplished. So well done. Well done all.
Thank you very much, Muriel, and thank you very much, Chief Petty Officer Lucienne, for telling us, for sharing your story with us. Okay, ladies, it's time for us to grab our glasses for the toast. But before I invite our chief plotter to raise the toast, we have a second poll that we will commission right now.
I'd also like to say, Marcia, that oftentimes people in the armed services aren't aware how civilians don't understand the details of their rank or the demands of their recruit training. And one of the things perhaps that I learned about her was that having been inducted into the Special Naval Unit is really like the elite special forces that we see in the US military. So she's literally our demi-mod G.I. Jane in Trinidad and Tobago. And I really want to salute her for that. The training is rigorous and tremendous.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Okay, the poll is ended. So I now invite our chief plotter, Tracy Farrell, to raise the toast. Remember, for persons, please, if your camera ready, join us on camera with your favorite beverage. Let us toast.
All right, so this time I'm wearing my glasses, so I will see a little bit better. I just want to say before the toast that it has been an absolute privilege to share this time and space with all of you women, in particular you amazing presenters. Your stories are truly inspirational. So to women everywhere, may we understand that courage is already within us. So when we are called to action for a loved one It never fails us. May we grow in appreciation for our strengths and understand that we are in our current perfection. Tomorrow we will grow to more perfection, but today we are already enough. And may we learn to speak words of blessing and encouragement only on women everywhere, the ones who raised us and the ones who we will raise. To women.
To women.
Cheers.
Cheers. In everything, we must give thanks. And to do just that, I'll invite our sister plotter, Charu Lochan Das. Charu.
As we celebrate International Women's Day on Tuesday, powerful ladies across the world will be sharing their views on how we can break the bias. As we all take action in gender equality in the workplace and in our communities. While this single day of the year brings recognition on the need for gender parity, inclusion, and diversity, daily we face challenges of what has become existing norms that we have become so used to. Today, we in Trinidad and Tobago continue to break the bias. On behalf of the PLOTT community, I would like to thank our distinguished presenters, Ms. Catherine Kumar, Assistant Divisional Fire Officer Carol Gaston, Ms. Natalie Maraj, Ms. Maria Mohammed Maraj, Mrs. Ingrid Jara, Chief Petty Officer Devin Lucen, and Dr. Marissa Nimrod. Special thank you to Ms. Zakia Gill for her extraordinary way of communicating such an important topic. To our fellow plotters, Ms. Marcia Hope, who kept the program going as Master of Ceremonies, thank you. Special thank you to Minister Wendy Lewis for engaging us in prayer. To our organizing committee led by Chief Plotter Tracy Farag, we thank you sincerely. To the members of the media, our distinguished online guests, both on Zoom and on Facebook, we thank you for participating. As we end today's session, we continue to move forward as a group, as a community, and as a country, and a world in breaking the bias. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Charu. Thank you very much. All right, this brings us to the end of our lovely program. Happy International Women's Day 2022.
There's one more poll.
All right, well, there's another poll. Please don't leave. Let's complete this poll. Thank you.